LSU versus Clemson. Who will win the battle of outside zone, right? This has been the big story involving Clemson. Their rush defense isn't where they need to be. And obviously, that was TJ Parker missing the tackle, not the best angles here. And Jaden Blue, who is very similar to that of Caden Durham, had himself a field day running this play. So he takes this to the house. And well, this wasn't the only time that this was profitable for Texas. So here was another zone handoff run. This is Quintravian Wisner running to the right side in the direction of the end. And well, this was yet again a really good play. Now, one thing about this on the LSU side of things, they need to be better blocking down the field with their receivers, but still good block by Matthew Golden to unleash this rush play. So here we are again. This is pistol yet again, and the last play wasn't pistol. Handoff to the right. Picture's a little muddy, so instead of running to the right, we get vertical when we see a hole, and boom, that's Peter Woods, their best defensive tackle. And now Wisner, he trips on his own feet. It's still a really nice game. So now here we go. Outside zone again, at a pistol again, and it is yet again profitable for LSU. And you can see this block was absolutely positively perfect. You're able to seal 99 to the inside, get your butt to the hole. Good second level block right there as well. And, well, Jaden Blue is one of the best backs in college football, and that's why he's with the Dallas Cowboys now. And he is off to the races. And I'll say it again, Jaden Blue, Caden Durham, very similar style of runner. So Blue is able to basically walk into the end zone here. And just to show you it's not just Texas, here's Louisville basically running this same play. And will Penn State's Tom Allen fix it? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. Louisville gets a little lucky here that Clemson was running a stunt, and running in the direction of the stunt could be very profitable. So that opens this hole a little bit wider here. But still, this is really good blocking by Louisville's front. Good second level block right there. Another good block from the receiver. And some poor tackling on the back end from Clemson actually turns this into an explosive run play. So it is something that LSU should do, but there is a problem for the Tigers when they did it. So outside zone at a pistol is actually something that LSU does quite a bit of. The only problem was they were one of the worst teams in all of college football in pistol usage. This was a part of our Patreon deep dive that we had to really spend a lot of time on. It was just way too predictable when they were in pistol, because every time that they got into pistol, I'm telling you, almost every single time that they were in this formation, they ran outside zone, and linebackers were able to key it, okay? And once again, this is a very difficult block right here. This guy got drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. He blows up another draft pick right here in Emory Jones, and, well, he's right there ready to make the play. So the block right there should have been better, but teams just knew what was coming. Here, Chris Pupal, he watches a lot of film, and you could see him keying in that this is going to be more than likely outside zone and more than likely to the wide side of the field. So guess what? He already has basically a running start. He knows what's coming here, and look at what he does. Boom! Okay, he just dominates an offensive guard who also got drafted, and this play is just dead on arrival. Okay, so that is really good stuff from that backer. And you could see LSU tried to do this. So outside zone is my personal favorite rush design. I just think, and this is a tweet from friend of the channel, Max Toscano, I just think you can always find a way to make this play work versus most, I would say 90 to 99% of the time, okay? Right here, even though this is, once again, LSU in pistol, predictable outside zone, you could see that based on these numbers, LSU should be able to make this work, especially with the linebacker blitzing from this angle, right? This gives you essentially one gap and two gaps to run this through. But what happens? Well, the center and left guard were two of the lowest graded PFF starters in LSU history. Actually, they were just the two lowest ever, minimum 400 snaps. And the DT is able to just blow through this and make this play on his own, right? This should have worked, but you also need the athletes to make it work. Now, once again, Josh Williams is an absolute monster at breaking the first tackle, so he turns it into something, but you got to have the dudes to do it as well. So now let's talk about trips. And if this single formation can unlock the LSU offense, all right? So what I want you to do is pay attention to what actually happens when just a simple backup tight end for Pitt transitions from one side of the formation to now being out here, all right? Take a look at what happens to these safeties, okay? So you can see Clemson was in single high, so this guy has got to sprint over here to be responsible for one of these three receivers over here. So now the play side safety is now, instead of being running towards the line of scrimmage, he's having to back up, be on his heels, and replacing this deep safety right here. All right, so what I've seen just watching as much college football as I watch is this motion, at the very least, changes what actually happens right here. And it makes the play side defender far more flat-footed, right? And what this motion does in particular for Pitt is that they're actually trying to run this to the left side. So the safety who was, the extra defender here in this cover one, this single motion takes this deep safety out of the fit and takes this safety out of the fit of where you're trying to actually run the ball. So what you're about to see are some interesting stats on trips when it comes to LSU. But take a look at what actually happens here. The left tackle, once again, I'll miss Will Campbell, is able to wash this Clemson defensive end completely out of the play. This widens the gap right here for this runner to run through. And now this safety, remember, he was filling. Now he's out of the fit. He's late here. This receiver comes to block him. And now we just need the running back to make this corner in space miss. And, of course, he misses. And now it is an absolute huge run. In all seriousness, Clemson really wasn't too unsound right there. It's just the backside end got his tail whooped, and the corner just made a really, really, really bad missed tackle. But that motion changed things for the defense, right? It changed the picture for that run to work. Now, it wasn't out of pistol formation, but it's still a run to the outside, wide zone, whatever you want to call it. All right, so here's Trey'Dez Green. He's stepping in for Mason Taylor alongside Bowers Sharp. And I'm going to show you the man that, we're spending this video talking about is Mr. Joe Sloan. I like Joe a lot personally. People at LSU tell me all the time that he is one of the best coaches to work with. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that, and people are just trying to say nice things about him. But Joe Sloan is under as much pressure as anyone. And if there was one thing I would tell him is to just simply look at the numbers when you compare the LSU offense when they have trips and when they don't have trips, right? Which is simply put three receivers to one side. You're taking a look at the yard per play splits in every game that I was able to chart. Now, I wasn't able to get to UCLA and Vanderbilt, I believe, but the truth is LSU was a far more productive offense in terms of yards per play when they actually were in trips. Watch what actually happens. It looks as if Arkansas sees that LSU is in this formation that they like to run this play out of. But even if that is the case, it still works, right? I don't know exactly what this extra defender does. For me, though, it just overloads one side of the formation, and it makes it really, really, really difficult to defend any rush play with so many receivers out there because you got to be responsible, okay? You could see that Arkansas has just three guys responsible for these three, but it still works. It still works, okay? This play, pistol, outside zone, it works. Now, it does help having Will Campbell out there making that critical block, but, man, Caleb Jackson, who struggled mightily, look at that. Nice run, outside zone, very simple stuff. So now here we go. The biggest outside zone pistol run LSU had on the season. This was when the LSU versus Alabama score was still respectable. Shout out Preston Guy, getting the Alabama Crimson Tide fans all fired up. So this is the benefit of running OZ is, LSU, and I think the reason that they try to make outside zone work so much is the middle of this offensive line, in particular right here, just wasn't good. And you could see right here that the one guy who doesn't do that great of a job executing his block is the center. Okay. So outside zone protects your center a little bit more in the run game. But still, the truth is LSU is in trips. Okay. Now, when you're in this formation, Mason Taylor isn't eligible. You football referees out there, feel free to correct me on that. But who cares? We're running the ball. We're not throwing it. So Mason Taylor makes a really good block right here. It's why he was a second-round pick by the Jets. And guess what? 3-on-3-on-3. And we have a huge hole to run through, okay? You got to have good blocking on the outside, and we do, all right? And the only downside is the backside corner, because there's no receivers on that side of the formation. He's not held by any action on that side, so that was the reason why Caden Durham got chased down right here by Damani Jackson, who's a good player. But still, you see LSU was just a better offense last year when they had one extra receiver to one side of the formation. One thing LSU will do versus Clemson is on third and longs, they are going to run the football. So once again, it is trips, and this is just a very favorable rush look. Now, once again, this isn't pistol. This is not outside zone. It looks like this is just a simple inside zone handoff. You O-line coaches, please correct me on that. I'm the worst at outside zone, inside zone. It is a clearly zone run right here. But here's the thing that I like about trips, and especially when you motion out of trips, it just makes these DBs, first off, a little casual on the back end because you see they're having to make checks. And you can also see that this safety, this is a really, really, really good safety, Nick Inwan-Mori. I always pronounce his name wrong. You see, he's still back, right? This safety is still back, right? They're still expecting some variation of a pass, and this is the Herbie clicker right here. Look at that. Wide open hole to run through for Caden Durham. Now, this had more to do with the down and distance, if anything, but it is just something when I actually broke this down, how much better the LSU run game was when they had an extra receiver to the outside. And I think some of it just is the DBs are just later to get into the run fit, right? Because one of the safeties is telling the other DB, hey, you are now responsible for this player motioning right here. I mean, there's so many different things that could lead into it. I just know what the data tells me. To this run right here from Caleb Jackson, once again, this is just a simple handoff. This looks more like duo, if you ask me. But once again, you guys. So here we go. Just a simple inside handoff. Once again, trips to this side. You have to have 4 guys out here responsible for it. So that's one less guy over here. And in this too high shell, the safety is late to fill. And guess what? Caleb Jackson can run through this hole, right? It just spreads this defense out. And it was mostly just a late fill by that safety. But still, it's a good run, right? For roughly 15 yards right here. We'll take that all day, every day. I feel like this rep right here is a really good representation of why I think this phenomenon works. Once again, this is 4 receivers to the right side of the formation. It's a little unusual, if you will, okay? But when you add an extra receiver over here, this takes a safety essentially out of the run fit, right? So remember, they were in single high, and now this corner is having to play the deep middle. So even though you lose one eligible receiver, notice how flat-footed these DBs are now. And that is something you don't want to be when you're trying to tackle Caden Durham. And it's just a simple handoff to the left side. And once again, it does help having Will Campbell out here. But this is one of the best defenses in the country last year. Oklahoma, look at this movement. Look at this surge, right? Obviously, a lot of Oklahoma's backup DTs were in on this play in particular. But The big thing here is the explosive run, right? I think if this safety was here instead of this corner, this is probably not as easy of a breakaway here for Caden Durham. But that trips with the screen mixed in there. This was also some good sequencing from Joe Sloan because he had a few screens early in the game. And the one thing I didn't tell you is Oklahoma was probably thinking it was going to be some type of a run or a quick screen because that was A.J. Swan, the backup in at quarterback. So it made life a whole heck of a lot easier for LSU. And Caden Durham would tell you that he probably should have housed this. Give for a lot of credit making the touchdown saver right here. But man, it could just be that simple. Adding an extra receiver to one side of the formation. And once again, we'll show it to you from this angle. Safety, you see him, he's still backing up. It's just a new assignment. Pre-snap, he wasn't thinking in particular that the receiver was going to go over here to make this essentially a 4-by-0, tight end and 3 receivers. So he's thinking, hey, there's no way that this is going to be something coming to the left side. And Caden Durham gets vertical, baby. Love to see it. And once again, I'm not the DB or whatever. I don't know exactly what he's thinking. But still, it's off to the races. It's really, really, really interesting stuff. Now, a little extra something for you here. Garrett Nussmeier was a better thrower in trips. I do feel, and I would have to go back and look at every single one of his INTs. It did seem most of those came just in pure 2x2s. And here on this 3x1, once again, trips, he hits Aaron Anderson for the biggest gain of this game for the LSU offense for a 46-yarder. Now, I want to include that just sticking it wide receiver just out here doesn't make this play automatically work. Once again, it's predictable that every time you get into this, it's going to happen. So you need to be a little bit more creative with it. It also doesn't help, once again, that your center is getting flattened. But still, the truth is, I personally feel this is something, right? Now, there is some confirmation bias with this because, in short yardage situations, you're probably not going to be in trips. And then also, if you are in trips, you're more than likely going to throw. So throws in and of themselves are going to have higher yard per play numbers. But I'm serious. Now I want to go through and look at every 2x2, such as this one. I really do think those formations led Garrett Nussmeier into more problems, right? We don't want to throw double covered balls such as this, so that should have been picked. And then we get to, once again, another 2x2 right here where nobody could get open. And Ole Miss really struggled defending the passes in the 3x1s. In fact, LSU's best run in this game, the only run that they had over 10 yards, was a 3x1 as well, a creative handoff. And you could see nothing is open, and that was also a not-so-great ball that was very fortunate to not get picked right there. So here is the INT yet again, and this time Garrett can't get away from throwing the football into coverage, and he throws a pick, right? So, LSU still had success in 2x2s. It's just the 3x1s, to me, were better, okay? So there's so much that goes into this LSU Clemson game, more so than just, my little counting stats. It's far more complex than this, but maybe it's not. So you guys comment down below. Will LSU have a successful night offensively versus Clemson? And do you think this run game will actually be better? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Tonight we are doing steaks. Let's go.